Hello and welcome to Columbus Local Podcast. This is episode number 69. I'm Len D'Amico, and I am really pleased to introduce today Matt Jones.
Well, thanks, Len. It's good to be here, especially for episode 69. I know there's been some talk about who it was going to be, and I'm honored that it's me.
Here it is. Applause big time. So Matt Bradley will be very jealous.
Well,
what are you going to do?
Yeah.
So, Matt Jones, I don't know everything that you're involved in currently, but I think it would be awesome if you could just kind of clue us into what you're up to.
Sure. What I'm doing now, I'm at ElDorado's Food and Spirits as a house sound guy, 5 nights a week, Friday through Tuesday, and that takes up most of my time. I'm also doing sound for Wednesday Wine when they have gigs, and I'm doing the new Godz project. So when they call, when either Jenny or Chatfield calls, that's what gets me out of Eldo's.
That's cool. Otherwise, you're at the bar,
Yep.
running sound,
Yep.
making things happen there. And of course, you have those two folks that you don't say you're busy. You just make it happen for some of those.
Yeah,
friends,
there are
right?
certain people when they call, you don't say no. One of them's Jenny, because I like to have a place to sleep, and when Mr. Chatfield or Mr. Schwab or Mr. Phoenix call, there's certain people you have to say yes.
That's so awesome, and you have so much history with all of them, right?
Oh yeah.
How long have you been at ElDorado's?
2012, I think, is when I took over as host for the Open Jam. And then that kind of morphed into doing sound for the other bands as we worked on the sound system there. And now it's every day pretty much.
That's a good deal. And are you still involved in the Open Jam at ElDorado's?
Yeah, I'm the host, and I play drums with the house band, the Geezers, and we do a short first set, and then if everything works out right and I have guest drummers, I can pretty much sit around the rest of the night.
Tweak the knobs and make
yeah.
sure everybody's happy, right?
Yeah.
That's awesome, man. We've been going to ElDorado's as part of trying to see some bands, and it's just a great club, man. There's a lot of history at ElDorado's.
Yeah, it's a great little bar. It's fun.
And that's located at the northeast corner of Morse Road and High.
That's right, yeah.
Right next to what used to be TJ's.
Mm-hmm.
And, it was always cool, too, because if you played ElDorado's, you'd always have a late-night breakfast right next door.
Right,
which is always the thing.
Yeah, the new place is only open till 9, but they also doubled the parking lot, so.
Yeah, and that works out for everyone.
Yeah.
Good deal. Well, Matt, you're a drummer, musician, sound man, live music extraordinaire, right? Making great bands sound even greater.
Yeah, I started out as a drummer. I had an older brother who's 12 years older. So when I was born, he was doing snare rudiments in the house. So drumming is cradle music for me. I did not have a choice about becoming a drummer. It was just had to be.
And it is.
Yeah.
That's so awesome. So you started right off hitting your brother's tools and utensils in the house.
I would get home from grade school and run down to the basement and be beating the hell out of his drums. And one day he came home. He was in college at OSU at the time, and I had headphones on in the basement, and I'm drumming away. I'm like 8 years old, And I'd look up and see him sitting on the basement steps, and I thought, oh shit, I'm dead. But he came over and he said, here, let me show you how to hold those sticks. And he taught me a lot about it. Instead of being mad at me for beating on his drums, he helped teach me to play, which
That's
was
so
cool.
cool, man. You know, that's so cool. I have two brothers. I know the brotherly thing. You know, we had our own stuff in common as well. Not music related, but then you know I have two sons, and they're very close. You know, and
Yeah.
it seems though you had that same situation with being two drummers in the house too, man. What an ordeal.
Yeah, my mom would say that she had a band in her basement for 25 years between my brother's bands and mine.
That's a lot.
Yeah.
So you are a Columbus person. You've grown up in Columbus, Ohio. Which area of the city are you from?
I grew up in Worthington.
Okay, good deal. And were you involved in music inside the school, or did you start outside the school?
It was not. I mean, I played in like the school band briefly in elementary school, but I didn't like the structure of that. I didn't like school very much in general. But I joined a band called Easy Street in high school with some friends of my younger brother. And you know, we were doing pretty well, getting some good shows, but I saw all the money going to the sound guy, and so I thought, man, what is it with this sound stuff, you know? And so started getting into that. And
Yeah, Matt, the local music scene, you know, knows that the sound company is the one that's really gonna get the purse for the night for sure. But it's where the magic happens, you know. It's where the magic happens. So, did you pick it up on your own, or did you study that?
I didn't
formally?
study sound. I in high school I studied diesel mechanics.
Nice.
Because I've always loved cars and trucks and working on stuff. But shortly after high school, I met a guy named Matt Laston, and we formed a little quote production company, M&M Productions. And we didn't really have any equipment or anything, you know, but we had lots of big ideas. And then I met a guy named John Ferrante, who had a sound system and knew a lot of the musicians in town, and he kind of took me under his wing for a while and taught me everything he knew. He's going to kill me if he hears that. But no, I owe a lot of it to John Ferrante. He's the one that kind of got me started doing live sound for bands. He had just made an agreement to provide sound for a band called Sweet Cheeks back in early 80s. And my first gig with Sweet Cheeks was at the El Rosa, and I came in the back door and met Ferrante, and he said, all right, this is the monitor board. Those are the girls. Have fun. And
That was it?
that was pretty much it for my monitor training. So for 6 months or so, I was in hell with two female singers who were great. And I learned, it was a baptism of fire. But after about 6 months, you know, I could call frequencies, and I was getting complaints that the monitors were so loud that they couldn't get the house system over the monitors, and blah blah blah.
Wow.
Yeah, it was a real baptism of fire. But I've always enjoyed the kind of the pressure of live sound, because you know, in the studio you create this perfect environment for listening, and then you modify what you're recording to fit that perfect environment. And in live sound, you have, shall we say, less than optimal acoustics, no matter where you are, and your job is to make this group of people sound like a band. And have no feedback and make everybody happy.
It's such an art, Matt. It really is. I mean, it's such an art. You know, and you've got the opportunity too. You started this in the early '80s, right?
Yeah.
You know, the heyday of what we call fondly classic rock.
Oh yeah, and Columbus
everything
was,
in between. But Columbus was a big rock music
oh
town.
yeah, there were.
It still is, but
Yeah, we had the Muff Brothers and Black Leather Touch and the Godz, and after that Rosie and Sweet Cheeks, Spittin Image, and all those great bands, the Alligators. So many good bands in Columbus at that time. It was a really, really cool scene.
did you focus at the El Rosa Villa then in the early '80s and run these bands through your sound? You started off on monitors, but did you eventually progress into learning more about sound reinforcement?
Yeah. We were doing Thursday through Sunday every week at El Rosa, most weeks, and we had literally thousands of local bands, and whatever national acts would come in. We had Pat Travers there a couple of times. We had Rat was there. The Rat thing is a funny story because Rick Catella had booked Rat.
And those that don't know, Rick was the owner of the El Rosa Villa, right?
All right, Rick had booked them before they got that big hit, Round and Round, or whichever song it was, which was their first big hit. And so by the time they got around to their schedule where the El Rosa was, they had already been out playing these big stadium gigs and stuff, supporting the new album. And they walked into the El Rosa, which was like an 800-seat club, and they were like, "What the hell?" They were not ready to go back to a club situation, and it was pretty funny.
Well, did they do the show though?
They did the show, yeah.
And they had a good time because that place was packed, probably. Right?
Oh yeah. We had a good time. We had Robin Trower was there. Alan Holdsworth played there. Rick Derringer, just Foghat, whole
went
bunch.
on and on and on. It was awesome.
Yeah.
And you, when did you take over the main board at some point? Like
I didn't really do a whole lot of front of house stuff at the El Rosa. I really had a knack for monitors, and I enjoyed working closely with the musicians. Because the monitors is what the musicians hear, and it's important for the musician to be comfortable and hear what they need to hear. And I enjoyed that part of it because it was more of a team effort with me and the bands.
Absolutely. Yeah, and close to the performers, right?
Yeah.
And the artist. So cool. So where did that take you next?
Well, in probably late '81, something like that, John and I met this band from Nashville who were former members of J.D. Sumner and the Stamps, which is Elvis's backup singers. And they invited us to go with them and tour the Southeast. They were doing like supper clubs and Holiday Inn for 4-night-a-week gigs and stuff like that. And so we went out and did that. That was my first taste of like being on the road, traveling.
How big was your rig? I mean, did you have to haul?
Yeah, we were carrying PA and monitors. Usually the places would have lighting, and I think the band provided some lights. But we were pretty much self-contained. Ferrante had this truck that he bought. It was a former U.S. mail truck, and the thing was just a piece of crap. I mean, we had to carry spare fan belts because it would throw a fan belt without warning, and then you would lose power steering
Oh,
and
jeez.
brakes and everything. I could do a whole podcast on that damn truck. There was one time coming back from a Godz gig in Cleveland, and we had it was a 20-foot box. We had it loaded top to bottom, front to back, with gear, PA gear, and the Godz gear. And just south of Mansfield, started getting this bump, 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 bump vibration in the back of the truck. And I look out my mirror, and I see chunks of stuff coming off. And I thought, we're losing part of a tire, no big deal. About a quarter mile later, both of the left rear wheels came off the truck. One of them rolled past me, and the other one got stuck under the truck, and that's the only thing that kept it from rolling over.
Oh my God.
I had my younger brother, Ferrante, were in the truck. I was driving, and so next thing I know, they're both laying on top of me, and I'm trying to get the damn thing off the road. And that's the
Holy cow.
same truck that caught fire in Texas when I was down there with John and Sweet Savage. And I don't know whatever happened to that truck. But
So you guys, clearly, with these bands out of the late 70s and early 80s, you guys were known as the Crew.
yeah, that's
They wanted you on the road with them
I'll tell you that's
because you had them dialed in.
yeah,
right?
that's the other thing that a lot of people don't realize is not only were the musicians that were around Columbus at that time, just top drawer players, but we had some of the best crew guys in town. Some of whom are still out there working.
These are some of the front of house sound
Just
engineering.
Some
and,
of them, some of them like the
grips and lighting and all that.
and guitar techs, guys like Bill Temple and Andy Harrison's been doing it for a long time.
Oh, he's still out there.
Yep, he's out with Sheryl Crow.
Yeah.
Lynn Murphy, who used to work with Muffs, and he went on to become a producer. Randy Jackson, Mr. Action, we used to call him. He went on and was doing lights for Kiss. So there's so many
That's so cool.
production guys in Columbus that are well known around the world. Greg Baker, Terry McCauley, who's David Copperfield's engineer. There's a lot of guys from Columbus from that era that are well known for that.
Yep. And there's guys that stayed in Columbus too that are running sound for local bands and live shows. You hear about some of those guys. Do you remember some of the folks the other folks that you've worked with?
Oh, bands or production guys?
Production folks too.
Oh yeah, it's like Ron Mowry. He's a lighting guy from way back. Let's see, there were the Weber brothers, who I worked with on the Godz Mongolians era.
Nice.
See, a few of them that have had to pass on. Let's see some other names. I mentioned Bill Temple. Tim Benedetti is another one. He was kind of Bill's prodigy. And Tim's still working with the Godz. Terry Paul, rest his soul. He's one of the ones that's lost another great light man. There's
a lot.
So many.
Yep.
Yeah.
Good deal. When you earn that spot to travel with some of these bands, you're doing something good. And it's amazing too to me to know, in your case, you go to ElDorado's, your history and all of that experience is what's bringing that beautiful sound into that club, you know, and it shows because it's always a good mix in that club whenever something's going on musically.
Yeah, it's a nice sounding little room, and it especially helps when the band cooperates with stage volume, because it's a small room. So bands, if you're listening, turn down your guitars. You don't have to be that loud.
You know, it's funny you say that too, because I think Clubber Lang was there this past weekend, and Rob Johnson's not a quiet guitar player,
Right.
But he's crisp and he's full.
Yeah, great tone. Yeah,
His tone, and I think that's the difference, is the tone management, and he's responsible.
Yeah,
but he's not quiet.
right. But yeah.
But that band sounded great this
Yeah,
weekend.
I don't put any guitars or bass in the PA when those guys are there, and that's the thing about it. A small room, you're usually mixing up to the loudest thing, and it should be the snare drum.
Right.
But
I gotcha. Yeah, it varies by
yeah,
individual bands and whatnot. So, did you play drums, Matt, through the time that you were kind of working with these bands in the late '70s, early '80s?
some I pretty much quit playing drums because I couldn't make money doing it. And I took, I don't know, 25 years off from drumming, and just watched thousands of great drummers. So when I did pick up the drums again, I could play things that I could never play before, and I hadn't practiced in 25 years. It's just, I think, by osmosis, seeing all these great players.
It's incredible.
Yeah.
It really is.
Yeah.
And for you to be able to witness, you know, the careers of these guys coming out, and you know, there were a few female stars that came out of Columbus as well. You know, you mentioned Spittin Image, and
Yeah.
just, you know, seeing these talented musicians doing it
Yeah.
old school, the hard way up,
Yeah.
and getting some really nice success out of it, you know.
Yeah.
Anything on the road aside from that crazy truck that you guys were driving around the country happen on the road that you want to maybe share with?
Lots of things happen on the road. Some I won't talk about.
That's okay.
To protect the innocent, but yeah, I've seen, you know, some fun things, like, you know, opening a green room door 3 minutes before showtime to see a literal orgy going on, and saying, "Hey guys, you know, we got 3 minutes. We need to wrap this up." And you know,
We're not naming names there, are we?
Not naming
okay.
names.
But
no.
you did see that.
Yeah.
Wow.
And well, I can tell this one because I don't care. When Yngwie Malmsteen was playing, I think he was playing at Battelle Hall, and after his show, he showed up to the Alrosa, and Yngwie was kind of lit, and he walked right up to the bar and asked Rick Catella if he knew where Yngwie could find any cocaine. And Rick said, "Get the hell out of my bar!" You know,
He didn't want that.
Threw him out the front door. So Yngwie comes around to the back door, stage door, and comes in and walks right across the stage to the green room. The Muff Brothers were playing, and opens the door and is looking for drugs. And he got thrown out of the dressing room by my buddy Rob Patterson, rest in peace. And Rob just kind of picked him up by the belt and collar and threw him out onto the stage.
No way.
Yeah, and then Yngwie was not ready to leave yet, and so my buddy Mike Geezy helped Ingve out the back door, and it's that was hilarious.
Oh my gosh.
Some of the bad things I've seen some horrible crashes on the road, accidents, and things that I've seen that changed me forever. Changed the way I think. That changed the way I drive. When you're doing that many miles, the odds are going to catch up to you one of these days. And I've been lucky so far, but I've seen some horrible traffic crashes. And that's one of the bad things about
being on the road
work.
that much. Yeah, you get tired.
Yeah.
But you also see all the diversity of personalities out on the road and the highway and through the mountains and
the scenery is amazing, and I used to love driving at night. Be by myself in the truck and just drive all night, and nothing but stars and tumbleweed and stuff like that. A lot of time to think. And
that's so cool.
Yeah.
That's so cool. What else did you see on the road?
We had another thing. I'm kind of a weather geek. I was born in Kansas, and we had tornado warnings like on a weekly basis.
Oh, jeez.
And I've always been fascinated by weather and thunderstorms, and I have seen some really, really cool supercell thunderstorms. Some from a distance, and some from way too close.
Right in the middle of
it.
Man.
There's. That's another one of the things I really liked about traveling was weather, and different parts of the country and the different types of weather they have, and I'm a sucker for a thunderstorm. I'll stop what I'm doing, even during a gig. If it's good thunderstorm, I'll stop and watch.
What did you guys do if you were like on the road and you did a show for, say, one of the bands that had you hired to support their tour? Something broke. How'd you handle that?
If we didn't have spares, you just adapt. I mean, there was one show early in the time that I was working with Ferrante. We showed up for a show down in West Virginia somewhere, and the only power that they had for us to tie into was what's called Delta power. And for those of you that are not electricians, it won't mean anything to you. But if you know, you know. And our power got hooked up incorrectly, and we blew like 15 speakers and 5 amplifiers or something like that, and had to cobble together what wasn't blown up to finish the show. And so that was
just on the fly.
Yeah,
make it work.
Yeah.
Oh. And then would you seek out like a place out there? I mean, they didn't really have cell phones. Or did we?
No, we didn't have cell phones back then.
Just drive around, grab the yellow pages, look for a music store somewhere. Right?
Yeah, and most of the time we would just kind of limp everything back to Columbus and get the work done here, because there was Doug Brownfield, Columbus Speaker Company. He did all the speaker reconing, and Dan Abel, who at that point was at Sound Advocate, which became Stage Tech and Live Technologies. Originally they were called Sound Advocate, and Dan did all the repairs, either him or Tim Newcomb, who had another sound company.
Sure.
And we usually just brought stuff back to Columbus to get worked on. because there were so many good people right here in town that we knew, and
Oh, for sure. Yeah, a lot of those names are still
yeah,
very visible.
yep,
I think Abel just sold recently, right?
yeah, yep,
Yeah.
he sold the repair business, retiring.
Do you see him at ElDorado's at all?
He's been in once or twice. Yeah.
That's cool. Yeah. Who else do you see walking into ElDorado's on a moment's notice?
Well,
or no notice?
yeah. We a few months ago we had my buddy Phil Stokes, who's a bass player from way back in Columbus. He used to play with Shakedown and the Rich Kids and lots of bands in Columbus. He now lives in Florida, but he was in town, and Phil and Frank Harrison and Steve Mitchell showed up at open stage one night
That's cool.
and just rocked
Toured
the
up.
place. Yeah,
That's
it was
cool.
really cool.
Yeah. I recently briefly met Steve Mitchell, and just, his reputation precedes him by miles, and of course Frank Harrison is legendary in Columbus,
Yeah.
Ohio, and that's good to hear that they come back around to where things happen.
Yeah, it was really fun when
chat
those
with
guys
you.
came in.
Yep.
Yeah, yeah. I was really glad to hear that Steve had gotten the gig with the Godz, as he and Mark, they've known each other
grew
for
up
50 plus years.
Yep.
Yeah, and they play so well together, and just it really, guitar wise, it's probably one of my favorite versions of the Godz.
I gotta tell you, I love this lineup. I mean, everybody in that band is so cool.
Yeah.
And they're so talented. They have all this history individually, and they bring it all together.
Yeah.
And it's all about where they started, where they are, and where they're going. And it's such a delight to see that legacy continue.
Yeah,
and
yeah,
I know there's some controversy that comes with some of that, but the spirit is still there.
Yeah.
From its beginnings, and it's really, really, really fun to see that there's more live shows coming this year. I know Mark Chatfield is obviously very busy with his new gig with
Grand Funk,
Grand
yeah.
Funk Railroad.
Yeah.
Which is so cool to see that happen.
Yeah.
With him, but nonetheless, I think they're so blessed to continue that project, and they're continuing to write.
Yeah.
And the show is good. What is your involvement with the Godz at this point?
I'm doing front of house. I guess the first one I did was back in January. First gig I did. And there's only been like three shows that I've done so far. Really looking forward to doing more. It's
sure.
a fun gig.
Oh yeah, it's a great show, and
Yeah.
it's very nostalgic and very new at the same time, which
Yeah.
is what I love about this lineup of the Godz. It's really, really, really a great show, no doubt about it. And so, were you there January of 2024 in Cincinnati,
Yeah.
running sound there?
Yep.
That's a fun little room, isn't it?
Yeah, the Blue Note. Yeah.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Beth and I went with JP and Nikki from Radio City, local. I don't know if you know those guys or not.
I've met them. I
Okay.
don't really know them. Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, and we went to that show and hung out. I got one of their white albums,
Yeah.
and I was just like a little kid, I was just having these flashbacks to growing up in Westerville and hearing the Godz
Yeah.
music coming out of a neighbor's window. It was like my first exposure.
Yeah.
I was not little. I was a young kid, but to be able to come all these years forward and witness Mark Chatfield
Yeah.
in that setting, and knowing that you're the sound man, that's really a cool thing too, because you have all that history with Mark, you have all that history with not only the Godz, but you have all that history you're bringing forward and it's all in ElDorado's
Yeah,
right here in
yeah.
Columbus, Ohio, and it's just so cool.
Yeah.
It's a gift, I think, to have your presence still working and contributing to quality local music that we have here in Columbus.
Well, I'm happy that I can still do it, and it's really gratifying when musicians come into Eldo's, which is it's a small family owned place. It's not a big rock venue kind of place, but people want to play there and enjoy playing there, and so it's gratifying to know that I'm a part of the reason that people like to play there. It's very cool.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, and you keep spinning your craft and twisting knobs and
Yeah.
dialing in tight, and it's good. And then your music selection, okay, in between sets, I take note of.
Yeah.
Okay, and I gotta think that's your personal selection. Is that accurate?
Yeah, for a lot of it is. I yeah, I tend to play stuff between sets that are kind of in the same vein as whatever the band is, and I like to try to curate those break song lists to enhance the performance for the band and for the crowd. If you're at a bluegrass show, you don't hear them playing Deep Purple between bands. That,
No, but you raised my eyebrow with Deep Purple
Yeah.
as Clubber Lang was tearing down the
Yeah.
other
Oh,
night.
yeah, yeah.
Okay, and I was like, I turned around, I'm like, Matt, what are we listening to, man? Because I was digging it.
Yeah.
It was Deep Purple. It was
Yeah.
a deep cut, obviously, because I
Right.
didn't recognize it, but I loved what was going on.
Yeah, that's I like playing the stuff that I like, and usually people can relate to it. They may not know the songs, but they can relate to them.
Yeah, and anybody can, get into a groove, and I feel like you've got all this musical experience. You just know what's going to work for that moment. And it just seemed like all those tunes that were playing in between were just spot on. That's a lot of experience, I'll tell
Yeah.
you. It's good stuff, enjoyable.
Yeah, I guess being involved in the music industry, whether you want to or not, you hear a lot of good stuff, and I guess it rubs the stuff that's good stays with you, and yeah, I just like doing it because it's fun. I like working closely with the musicians, and I look at, even if I get paid by the club, the musicians are my customers, and I feel like my first obligation is to make the musicians happy and make that group of people sound like a band for the audience. And
Yeah, no doubt about it. I look forward to the next gig over there because I know you'll be twisting the knobs.
yeah.
Is there anything else that you want to convey, Matt?
Well, I would like to mention the time that I spent with McGuffey Lane.
Oh my gosh.
John Schwab. I came back to town after the Jackal tour in '93, and went back to working with Joe Jennings and Bentley Austin, and doing the concerts at the Continent. And John Schwab and his party band played the Continent thing, and a couple days later, John called me and asked if I'd be interested in taking over for Ernie, who was moving to Chicago, as McGuffey Lane's sound guy. And I said, well, yeah, sure. And that led to like almost 12 years that I worked for John. And you couldn't ask for a better boss than John Schwab. He's not only a great musician, he's a truly wonderful guy, and helped me out many times. He helped me build my race car.
Really?
Yeah, I built a race car in his warehouse, and would race it on Sunday mornings after McGuffey Lane gigs on Saturday nights.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, at one point I got stuck. I ran out of money, and I was almost done with the car. And I'm sitting in the office, and Schwab walks in and says, you look down, what's the matter? I said, I'm out of money. I can't finish my car. And he says, well, you can use the American Express. And so I went to Jags that afternoon and spent $3,000 on John Schwab's credit card. And the next day, my race car was running. And he was okay with that. He was
wow,
just a great boss, great guy.
Absolutely, yeah, that's cool.
And that band, those, I can't say enough about how good those players are, and what good people.
Yeah, that's the thing, right?
It really feels like family with that group.
That's awesome to hear. Yeah, and the music is a feel good scenario.
Yep.
Well, that's a great experience for you too.
Yeah, I learned a lot in the 12 years I was working with them. Very good experience.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Yeah, good deal. Well, I would just say visit ElDorado's at Morrison High and say hello to Matt Jones.
Yeah, please do. Friday through Tuesday every week.
And know the history that he brings to the sound that's happening there. No matter who's playing, he's always applying his craft to make sure that the musicians feel good about what they're doing and the patrons are enjoying themselves. And it is top-notch quality sound. There's no doubt about it.
Well, thank you. Yeah. And come visit me at ElDorado's, and I'll tell you some stories that I can't tell
on the podcast today.
Yeah.
Oh, we heard some good stories, man.
Yeah.
And we appreciate you making the time to come out and star in the episode number 69.
Well, I'm flattered. I'm honored to be here, and it's been a great time.
It's an honor to meet you and talk with you today, and do appreciate what you've done, and sharing that story with Columbus Local Podcast, episode number 69.
Right on.
Matt Jones, thank you, sir.
Thank you, Len.
And thank you all for listening. Bye-bye.